Incredible jumping ability and razor-sharp vision, the queen jumping ants have survived through speed and deadly precision strikes. But now, they must face an extremely formidable enemy, the Diakama army ants. Vast in numbers, strict in discipline, and always ready to crush their opponents. In this life-or-death battle, will speed prevail, or will sheer numbers claim the victory? The answer will be revealed at the very end of this video. Welcome back to AntTrek. Over the past 60 days, my jumping ant colony has demonstrated its strength through countless challenges they constantly face in reality. To truly understand, let's go back to day 1.
Hello?
The two queens first appeared inside the test tube, where I had been raising them for a while.
This place is too cramped. Exactly. We cannot build an empire in a place like this.
So I prepared a very special and mysterious place. The moment they set foot here, both queens, already known for their sharp, tiny eyes, began to take it all in. Commonly known as jumping ants, they live about 3 to 5 years and rank among the larger ants at 12 to 20 millimeters long. Their primary habitat is tropical rainforests. They have long, thick, powerful mandibles to clamp down and subdue prey before stinging. Their hunting style is stalk and pounce, relying heavily on vision, with agile jumps to close the distance or make a quick escape. As soon as they arrived in the remote, untamed land, the queens immediately began scouting and searching the area to choose the perfect spot for their new colony. Harvin and Harvin, one the older sister, the other the younger, split up to search for the right place to establish their colony. Day 2. With their sharp eyes and excellent memory, both queens quickly found the perfect location to begin building their nest. That empire was established about 30 centimeters above the ground, high enough for the empire to feel safe and to nurture their future offspring. With the nest location now secured, the next challenge was all about survival. Unlike many other queen ants that simply rely on their fat reserves, the Harvok queens are true hunter warriors. They're fond of honey, small insects like cockroaches and crickets, and even carrion. Relying on their agile jumping ability and rare, sharp vision in the ant world, the queens swiftly spotted a promising target, none other than the cockroaches hiding among the rocks. Cockroaches, ancient insects, live 8 to 12 months. Born for the dry, semi-desert heat, they reach 2.5 to 3.0 centimeters, about 1.0 to 1.2 inches, and reproduce in massive numbers. Females lay multiple oothecae, totaling roughly 200 to 250 nymphs under ideal conditions. But in this encounter between the ants and the cockroaches, both species were driven by their survival instincts. And when these two hungry forces crossed paths in the narrow territory, there could only be one outcome: a battle. HV drove its razor-sharp mandibles into the opponent's soft spots again and again, startling the cockroach and sending it bolting for safety. Taking full advantage of its large compound eyes, this ant can detect movement and pinpoint prey with precision. After repeated strikes like that, the cockroach flipped onto its back and conceded defeat. From the start, the cockroaches were no match for, naturally becoming the meal that filled their hungry stomachs, and those cockroach remains even turned into a stored food supply, sustaining the jumping ants for many days to come. Day 12. In the world of ants, simply eating and reproducing would be far too easy. Life is always about facing challenges. Only through them can the colony grow and truly develop. That's why a mysterious force had been watching their journey all along, perhaps waiting for the fat, juicy eggs of the HV queens. Day by day, those once tiny eggs had now grown into plump, well-nourished larvae. But life could never stay that easy. The queens still had to hunt directly to gather enough food for themselves and for their soon-to-hatch offspring. Relying on their agile jumping skills and the rare sharpness of their vision in the ant world, the queens quickly locked onto a rich, promising target. The queen ant enhances her defenses and always stays in the nest to protect the larvae until they grow into loyal offspring. The queens bring back spoils for their larvae, all the while carrying a constant unease, for their keen hearing tells them there is always something lurking nearby. Once the offspring are born, they begin to take over from the queen, tending to the larvae and hunting. Driven by instinct and their sense of vision, some worker ants disobey the queen's instructions and venture farther away. They seek out more fertile ground, unaware that danger is always lurking ahead. A bombardier beetle has appeared, notorious as a living form of chemical weaponry, for it carries a heated, highly corrosive chemical arsenal within its body. They live about 1 to 2 years, typically measure 10 to 30 millimeters in length, with some species reaching 2 to 3 centimeters. Are widely distributed from temperate to tropical regions. Facing their prey, they felt no fear and charged straight toward the bombardier beetle as a fierce confrontation unfolded. The bombardier beetle did not make much movement. It shook its tail violently and sprayed an acid-like mixture. This is a mixture of hydroquinone and hydrogen peroxide, two substances stored separately in its abdomen, only combining when danger arises to trigger an explosive reaction. The little warriors, therefore, couldn't mount a defense in time. The battle with the bombardier beetle ended in chaos. The stinging smell of hot chemicals still lingered over the damp soil. Some Harvok warriors had fallen, while others were forced to retreat, scorched and covered in wounds. They returned to the nest in exhaustion and alertness. But before they could rest, the ground shook violently. From the shadows, a grasshopper emerged. Grasshoppers typically live 6 to 12 months and measure 5 to 8 centimeters, about 2 to 3 inches long. They're known for their explosive jumping power. Spring-loaded hind legs let them launch several times their body length, enabling swift escapes and rapid access to food. The warning had no time to be voiced before thunderous leaps struck. The battle unfolded, with sharp mandibles striking and piercing into the soft body of the grasshopper. Despite its incredible leaping power, at heart it's a plant eater, feeding only on grass and leaves, so its offensive threat isn't all that formidable. Its ultimate purpose was to lead the ant legion known as Diacama, not far from there. The Asian bullet ant, also known as Diacama rugosum, has a lifespan of 3 to 5 years. Its size ranges from 8 to 12 millimeters, and its reproduction rate can reach up to 10,000 eggs per year, depending on favorable temperature conditions. These ants are commonly found in tropical forests. And the grasshopper warrior accepted sacrifice on this ground, its true purpose being to deceive the Harvok into believing it was the only enemy, but in reality, However, the jumping ants were not so easily subdued. This caused the Diacama to gradually dwindle in numbers. The Harvok army constantly shifted formations and used their powerful leaps to launch attacks. Diacama unleashed its venom and delivered painful stings that pierced into Harvok's flesh, yet neither side was willing to yield. But with the advantage of terrain and their overwhelming numbers, the Harvok army managed to dominate the Diacama, forcing them to surrender. but everything seemed devastated as the jumping ant colony suffered heavy losses. The larvae are still carefully cared for. However, what makes the jumping ants special is that they are less burdened than many other ant species, instead of chewing up food and directly feeding it to the larvae. They only need to bring the food and place it nearby. At that point, the larvae will feed themselves by drawing nutrients directly from it. In addition, their larvae range in size from 2 to 10 millimeters, making them larger than most common ant species. The colony returns and recovers after the battles it has endured. The question arises, where exactly did the Diacoma colony come from? And what drives them to be so bold as to invade and challenge right within the territory of the jumping ants? Back to day 1 when I first adopted this colony, it was barely alive. One solitary worker to tiny larvae. No queen. Day 20, a miracle to new workers hatched. They looked almost identical to the first small, powerful, and instinct-driven. Day 50, the colony reached 5 workers all newly born. But how can a worker ant reproduce? I will show you. I will take a magnifying glass and the secret of the species Diacama rug. Here lies the secret, a symbol of dominance. New workers have theirs bitten off, losing the ability to ever reproduce. This is how Diam selects its gamergate as silent. Hurdle day 80, the colony grew rapid until horror struck. I watched as they turned on their own larvae. 3 for ants swarming, ripping the helpless young apart. Why? Hunger, stress, instinct? I didn't have an answer. If you know the reason, drop it in the comments. And if you were just as shocked as I was, smash that like button and subscribe. Because this journey is about to get way crazier. Day 120, overcrowding. 21 ants crammed in tight quarters. I dropped in a cockroach instant swarm. They tore it apart. Efficient, brutal order. Days later, ants started dying. No fights, no sickness, just dropping. I suspected the environment, so I gave them a new home. I connected the tubes and began the move. Once they migrated, things seemed better, but not as vibrant as I hoped. Day 250, the colony stalled. At the same time, I got distracted, taking in other exotic species, and I forgot. You can find videos of this ant colony on my channel. And that I still had a bullet and colony waiting for attention. Until today, digging through old setups, I found this abandoned zone, the very spot where the ants had migrated, trying to survive. It was a graveyard of bodies scattered everywhere. But in the corners, some ants were still alive. I couldn't bear to leave them in this state any longer. So I built a new sanctuary. I redesigned their world. A terracotta tower in the center. Rock channels and moisture pockets for airflow and shelter. With tubing systems for easy navigation and space division. Their new home was ready. Moist cotton nests, sealed edges, escape-proof. All right, the tank is ready. La connected the tubes for the ant to come. I connected the tubes and waited. As always, a scout ant left the old nest first. If it felt safe, it would call the others. One by one, they followed. Some even dragged their exhausted nestmates to safety. One looked weak to move, so I made a decision. I defrosted a baby mouse and placed it near the tower. Following the scent, a few ants reached the top. Without hesitation, they bit into its leg. More came. The tower filled. Others rushed into the water test tube, drinking rapidly. Clearly, they had been starving and dehydrated for days. I hoped this would be the beginning of their recovery, a place where they could finally rebuild their empire. One unique trait of this species, they hunt at night. And unlike most ants, they don't follow pheromone trails. They rely on vision and personal memory. I figured it made sense to recreate what would happen in the wild. So I turned off the lights. In just one day, I'm confident this colony will devour the entire mouse. While they fed, I searched for another nesting zone, a resting area for the colony to grow in peace. The next morning, war had broken out. The ants had split into two battlefronts. At the top of the tower, they continued tearing into the mounts. Down below, they clashed with roaches and worms. Overwhelmed, forced to defend on all sides, because their numbers were now exploding. They don't need a queen. They don't need orders. Just vision, memory, survival. This battle yet totally one-sided. The worm and cockroach army steamrolled in, and our brave little ant squad had no choice but to retreat. What I needed to do now quickly was rescue the colony. I found this old tank. Now it's rescue time. We've got to scoop up our tiny warriors, get them to a safer place, and start fresh. Care for them, feed them, and rebuild their adorable little empire from scratch. I tried to save as much as possible, pick up some leftover and to their new home. Day 300. The battle was brutal, terrified, but then life began to grow. These little guys already start to grow for a new and better future. I'm planning to create a new habitat for my ant colony. Beginning with the foundation, we just need a bit of foam to shape the frame. What's going on with this foam spray? Oh my God. Let me trim off some of this excess. While waiting for the soil to dry, I'll work on some decorations. I'm building a gallows, a place to execute wrongdoers. Just like how nature passes judgment on every creature on this planet. Oh, looks pretty good. Time to get them all checked out. Before we move on, I need to let these tiny settlers migrate into their new habitat. Hopefully they'll approve of the world I built for them. The first members are already on the move. It seems the whole colony really loves their new home. Hopefully, in the coming months, they'll build a strong, thriving empire. The journey of the two ant colonies comes to an end here. Each species carries its own strengths, and the Harvok have tasted both bitter defeat and glorious triumph, from battles for survival to moments of miraculous resurgence. Will the Harvok continue to write their legend, or be wiped out by the ruthless enemies still lurking in the shadows? Stay tuned, because the story of the Harvok jumping ants is far from over. Check out this video for more, and I'll see you in the next one.